Welcome to School Talk. I'm Nadja Varney, your host. You know, today technology can connect us with the entire world. Still, students and scholars choose to study abroad. Why? What motivates them? How important is it? Well, let's talk about international education and foreign exchange students today. My guest is Dr. Rupa Raji. Here at Bridgewater State University, she's the director of the International Students and Scholars Services, and she's also the president of the Massachusetts Council for International Education. Welcome, Dr. Rupa. Dr. Raji. Your names are so beautiful, either one could be coming from my mouth. Well, Dr. Rupa Raji.
Thank you. My students call me Dr. Rupa, but please just call me Rupa.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm Nadja, and before I was married, I was Nadja Tahar. So I went through having people call me several names too. I was amazed. You've studied in a number of countries. You have a Bachelor of Arts in Ancient Indian Culture. You have 2 degrees from the University of Bombay, India, a Master of Arts in Education from the California State University, a doctorate in education from California Lutheran University. It goes on and on. You seem to be the epitome of international learning. Tell me, how did you begin? Where did this all start? How did you get interested in international ed and then working with students? Maybe you could even tell me a little bit about your life in India before you left your country.
Well, I guess if we look at where it began, I think it was when I was 3 years old. My dad wanted me to be a doctor, and I said, no, I'm going to be a teacher, and that was the end of the argument. And I started out wanting to teach. So I taught in India with my degrees in ancient Indian culture and in education. I taught for over 11 years English and history in an all-girls school in Bombay, India. So my youth was spent in Bombay. I still call it Bombay because when I left it was Bombay, and I hate calling it Mumbai. So some of us who are in that time warp, we continue to call it by the old name.
Which is what I did too.
And it's natural,
yes,
I think,
yes.
you know. It's still in that transition phase. But life was great. I had fallen in love with someone when I was 19. He was Muslim, and I'm Hindu. Not a big deal. I was always a rebel, never did what I was expected to do, didn't believe in that arranged marriage nonsense. You know, that wasn't for me. And so I married my sweetheart when I was fairly young. Unfortunately, 10 years later, it didn't work out, and I went to Los Angeles to connect with my dad, who had left me when I was a lot younger. And part of that experience was going back to school, because the easiest way to come to the US was to come here as a student. I also needed a US education if I was to start a career here again. A lot of foreign degrees are not recognized just for their own value. You have to add on a US certification or a degree in order to be able to continue in that profession. So it was hard leaving my students. It was hard leaving the school where I had taught for so many years, but I was blessed to be able to start a new life in California. And when I came to orientation, part of the introduction, we were all talking about ourselves. By the way, in 1998, I was one of 3 girls from India who had come to the US to study. And when they heard about my history and my qualifications already, the office that conducted orientation, it was called the Office of Student Development and International Programs. They hired me on the spot to do programming for their international students. And I think that was my beginning of my love affair with international education and with higher ed. I continued with my degree. I got my California certification to teach in California. But I think part of it was looking at students, young students in California, you know, the cultural differences with the young kids in middle school and high school. It was a bit of a culture shock for me as a teacher, having been raised in that Indian mindset where the teacher is all powerful and all knowing. The respect factor was very different. So it was a bit of a culture shock for me, but it was also that love for international ed. And I stayed. I stayed with my job. They created a position for me when I graduated. I grew from being a programming assistant to a full-time programmer to a foreign student advisor. And so as part of my job, I took on various pieces related to being an international student advisor. By the time I left in 2010 and came here to Massachusetts, we had over 400 students from India, and at least 30% of those were women. So it was a far
Oh.
cry from having been one of 3 women from India
Exactly, yes.
in 1998.
Well, you have your life's experience as well as all your education and that serendipitous kind of connection that was made when you first came. Quite amazing, but most of life, a lot of life is like that, isn't it?
Yep.
And as I said in my open, the internet allows us to connect all over the world, and now we have the MOOCs,
Yes.
massive open online courses,
Yes.
but still, students and scholars are still very interested in traveling to another country to study. Why do you think what's fueling this growing interest?
Well, part of it is the internet leaves you hungry for more, doesn't it? I mean, it's a one-sided medium. You have access to information, but you don't have access to that human connection. And some might argue that, well, Skype or some other form of online communication might give you that. But sitting down and talking to one another is quite different. Sampling somebody else's food is quite different. And having come from my background in student affairs, I am a huge proponent of co-curricular education. So all of my work is related to making sure our students are involved outside of the classroom, making sure they're engaged in programming, they're engaged in the residence life experience, they're engaged in sharing food, sharing travel experiences. And I think for a true student to truly learn in another culture, it's this entire package that's important. Just as for our students, even in a university, we don't believe in just an academic learning experience. We want our students to have an all-round experience, which is co-curricular.
This kind of reflects the title that you hold, the Director of Students and Scholars Services. So you
Yes.
do a lot more. And I'd like to hear more about that, but I wondered if you could put a face on this whole student going to another country. Do you have a story somewhere in your mind about a student that you know, if it's not yourself, but anyone else?
Oh gosh, I'm thinking of this young man. He was of Greek origin, who had been raised in Argentina, who was in California studying film. And since we're on television, I thought a film example would be appropriate. He made this film, which won an award at the Cannes Film Festival.
Oh, my.
And so, we worked with him to support his travels, not just coming to the university, but then sending him on to Cannes to receive his award. And certainly, part of that is the recognition that the institution gets. And that was the true global traveler, who
Exactly.
had embodied everything that international experiences involved.
I could see that it's not only living here, but actually producing something here
Right.
and being recognized elsewhere for it. It just seems to just grow like a pebble in the middle of the river or lake. I wonder, you've talked to many of these students, obviously, and you know them. What motivates them? I'm sure there's a variety, but what's the underlying motivation for wanting to be an international student?
I think the most important one is opportunity. Wanting to widen your horizon of opportunities. The more you seek out, the more you learn, the more you experience, the better opportunities for you in the world of careers. Whether it's whatever country the student comes from, I think that's their primary goal. But in a lot of Asian cultures, the motivating factor is sometimes the parents. They insist on their students their children coming abroad. And sometimes that can be a problem for the student, because then the parent imposes their views and expectations on a student, on their child. So we deal with both sides of motivation. There may be the positive, the self-driven, but there are also sometimes students who are forced into foreign travels by their parents. We'd like to believe that they all have happy endings where they discover it's the best experience and it works out fabulously for them. But sometimes there are challenges, when they are placed into a major that parents don't quite enjoy. I've dealt with students from Indonesia who were business majors who really wanted to study music. And one of my other stories is of a student at commencement who came to me and said, I'm from Indonesia. My parents think I'm earning a degree in business, but I changed my major to music. And the whole commencement ceremony was on another day and another time. And the student said, well, can you get me into the business commencement so my parents can think I graduated with a business degree? And then we get embroiled in all kinds of
my goodness.
things. So, of course, we couldn't do that for the student. We had to
No.
bring them in and have a conversation and say, he's an awesome musician now. So, things happen.
Now, do you find, you mentioned how the parents sometimes maybe want them to do business or law.
Right.
Is it money that's driving some of that in our world now? It seems to be a new god has appeared called money. And do you notice that a change happening with international students who may really want to come and study film or music, but they are being pressured or feel that they should come and learn from the capitalistic, mecca here?
I think money does play a role, but I think the bigger issue is the perception of the value of any given major. In a lot of families, people still think that music or dance or theater isn't really a major. They think it's a fluff education.
That's true.
And so that's the challenge with those kinds of majors, especially in my line of work. When I hear a parent challenge a major or say that a major has no value for them, it's not necessarily about the money. I mean, we've got, I've worked with students who've turned out to be award-winning screenwriters or musicians who have gone on to make a lot of money. But it takes a little time. The money is not there right then. There is a little bit of a struggle. But there can be a lot more money and fame in the more glamorous majors, so to speak. So it's not about money necessarily. It's a lot more about perception, especially men wanting to be music majors in a lot of cultures is not necessarily acceptable or a matter of pride. So those kinds of challenges are bigger.
Well, it's interesting because you're talking, I think you're talking about people from many other countries and cultures, but I'm afraid in the United States, we're so money conscious that we don't see people lining up to the music schools like we see lining up for the law degree,
Right.
to go through business and law. And that's kind of sad, as you've just explained. We should be who we really are. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you to focus in on what does higher education, what is the broad goal, or are there some main purposes that they see, consequences, good consequences and results from international education? We'll be right back.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
Dr. Rupa Raji, I love saying that name. I was, just before we went to our break, I was wondering if you could kind of characterize what higher education, right now, almost every university encourages international education. So what is the broad purpose for it, or the major goal?
I think the simple way to say it is to create global citizens. We're looking for people who understand each other. We're looking for students who will grow up into adults and contributing individuals who will be able to look past differences and celebrate the similarities of being human beings. Whether we eat noodles or rice or whatever the case may be, to enjoy our meals, to understand what brings us to do the things we do, our cultures, and thereby to bring peace in the world. I think whether it's the U.S. Department of State or any educational institution, that's the simple goal we want. To create love, to create understanding, a willingness to understand each other, and a willingness to get along peacefully. And if we can do it in our residence halls, if we can do it in our classrooms, maybe tomorrow's generation will do it across the world and we won't have any more wars. That's my simplistic way of putting it.
It's not simplistic at all. It's really a wonderful perspective, I think. As you said, the final result is world peace. You've traveled everywhere. I'm amazed. I've read that you've traveled to Austria, Canada, China, England, Germany, Lebanon, Nepal, Scotland, Switzerland, and the United Arab Emirates, and maybe others. What an amazing traveler you've been. I just wondered, in comparing education systems as you've gone to various countries, is there any unique or significant characteristic about American education that would differentiate it from most of the rest of the world? Is there?
Well, I'll have to clarify a little bit before I jump into that. Is a lot of my travel was also personal leisure travel.
Okay, yes.
So not every country my visit to every country wasn't an opportunity to look at their academic
I see.
settings. That being said, I have worked with students from every single country in the world, no matter how small it may be.
You're kidding.
I worked on a very large campus in California, so out of a population of 36,000, we had almost 5% international, which was significant. And I think one of the things that they all spoke about the American education system is the fact that we're not bookish. We're not hung up on just reading. Our education is so interactive, and we're not. Our system doesn't require us to do just one exam at the end of the semester or the end of the year or degree program. We do little bits along the way, so they keep us on our toes. They help us to learn faster. They help us to learn by doing. And certainly comparing it to many of the places where I have seen education, I would agree that this is special about the American education system. It helps us to be better learners. It teaches us to be lifelong learners because those skills are universal. We can apply them at any age, any stage in life.
I'm interested in hearing this because I've been around the education world for quite a while, and going back to my earlier days, we did have the person, the sage on the stage, as they would say.
Right.
And then it became the guide on the side. And now it has become, especially with technology, far more interactive for everyone, the teacher, the students, and so forth. I wonder, what are the major similarities now? Is there something that is pretty similar across the board in most countries?
I think it's the internet. I think there is a lot of learning that's being done online. That's become the common way to find information. I earned my doctorate just 3 years ago, and I already have other folks who are in doctoral programs now talking about having the ability to do their literature reviews through online searches. We did them, but they were a little different a few years ago. So it's growing in leaps and bounds in really short periods of time. And I think that's universal. I'm looking at students from China or Cambodia who have iPhones and who talk to me online from airports. And
Amazing.
They have they've got their wits together. They know what they're looking at. They're able to communicate. They have information.
So it is, the technology is king. The sad thing that this isn't really germane to our conversation, but in a way it is, that even here in America, there is a divide, in the technology world. And there are still people in communities here in this country and in many other countries where they don't have access yet.
Yes.
But I know some philanthropists are sending, simple computers all around the world. Maybe we need more of that right here in our poverty pockets in America, but my little editorializing here. In addition to, in your job, in your work as director of the services for international students, I'm sure you do more than help them find a place to live and get their courses. In fact, I read something that's called SEVI, and it's related to all these international laws. And could you talk about what do you do to help students with this?
It's called SEVIS, or SEVIS in the Midwest and other states, but it stands for the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System. It's an online tool that helps the institution communicate with the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security, and that's the more serious part of my job. When we bring in an international student, we have to report to the government on each student who has been admitted to the institution. A document is generated for each student, which is sent to the student in their home country. The student shows that document to the U.S. Embassy or consulate in their home country to obtain the appropriate visa to enter the United States. Their job is to report to me immediately upon their arrival, because I have to verify their documents, make sure they arrived in correct status. I need to give them an orientation to help them understand immigration regulations and their responsibilities as a student. Make it not scary, but manageable for them. Help them to understand that I am not the police, but I am their ally to help them work with the university. I also need to monitor these students every semester to make sure they enroll in a required number of courses that the government expects. I also have to make sure that they get the grades and make the academic progress that the government expects. And if there is a problem, then I assist them with solutions, remedies, options.
Now I'm wondering, relatively recently, there have been new expectations placed on universities, and I'm not sure if you're referring to some of them here, where some of the federal aid, this I think is in discussion, but some of the federal aid will only go to students who need the help if they are, and I think it applies to international students, if they stay and finish the semester and actually have achievement. If someone drops out, or I'm sure you must run into this, if somebody decides to drop out or not finish or not do the work, what happens? Do they lose funding or access to the university?
Two separate issues. First of all, international students are non-immigrants, so they are not eligible for any federal aid.
Okay.
Federal aid is for U.S. citizens and those who are eligible for the aid. So international students actually have to show us an affidavit of financial support to say that they have the money to go to school in the United States. They can never be a burden on the government. This is verified not only by the university that admits them, but it's also verified by the U.S. Embassy or consulate where they go to apply for their visa. So a student who may lose their funding down the road, like I said, we have options and remedies to assist with helping the student go through those issues. We don't have money to give them, but there are options. And those are detailed, so I won't go into too many details. Students do struggle. Students have health issues. Students have mental issues. Students may have personal issues.
They're people.
They're people.
Yes.
They may just hate the major and, not do well in a class. So many things happen. My role is to serve as an advisor, but my role is also to be the point of referral. We are not the catch-all as international advisors. We don't do it all. But our job is to know what that student's need is and then send them on, whether it's for medical help, whether it's for counseling, whether it's to talk to an academic advisor with a suggestion for some academic recourses. My job is really to be American mom, to feel the pulse.
I was thinking that.
Right. We feel the pulse, we gauge, but then we send them to the doctor to get a confirmation.
Yes.
So it's like mom knows the right answer, but we're not certified to do give the prescriptions always.
Right.
But that's the way I define my job. It's to make sure these students are well. They're here on their own. They need to feel safe. They need to know that I don't judge them. They need to know that I would love and accept every student, whoever that may be, whatever their situation, identity, problem, positive, negative, whatever it may be. My role is to be the supporter, the advisor, and then to celebrate with them at commencement when we've achieved the
We've
goals.
gotten there. That's amazing. I'm afraid to ask you how many students you have to deal with, because it sounds like you have quite a lot to do. And then the serious part of it, you're connected, you must give the proper information to the Homeland Security people in Washington. So you have to wear both hats, don't you?
I do, and I get a lot of migraines sometimes.
Moms do get headaches.
Right.
What kinds of feedback do you get when you spoke about working with the student and then finally the commencement and graduation? What kinds of feedback do you get from your international students?
Facebook is wonderful. Looping back to technology, Facebook has put me in touch with students not only from my international students here in the U.S., but my students back home in India, whom I knew as little girls and who are now wives and mothers and successful in their own right. And every single student says the same thing to me. They say, by golly, you were tough on me, but thank you, because you've helped me to be who I am. They know, and they always tell me, they say, you never put up with nonsense from me, Rupa. You were so tough. And at that time, sometimes I was angry with you for making me do something or for telling me that I was on the wrong path. But then you were the only one who supported me, and you were the one who taught me the right skills, or you helped me to see what I was not seeing, whatever the cases were, And so I have friends, they're friends today, they're all friends. Not just Facebook friends, but friends from the heart. And they thank me. I have earned their love and their goodwill and their gratitude along the way because of who I am, and they know the love that I have for them.
It sounds like you've been very excited and very effective in your work. Have there been any points of frustration, or do you have any disappointments? Or you could speak to that, or a sense of achievement, which gives you optimistic view.
Well, there's always a little bit of everything, right? Frustrations do come sometimes when students when you find they're not working hard enough and they have the potential. Frustrations come when students sometimes withhold the truth, and you find out that you could have helped more if you knew the truth and there was a doorway, but you couldn't see it because the student wasn't forthcoming with you. 9/11 was a frustration. I was an advisor when 9/11 happened, and SEVIS, the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, is a byproduct of 9/11.
Oh.
The reporting requirements are a lot more stringent because of the outcomes of 9/11. And it's hard because it's a demanding job. It's a job that requires us to be a little more vigilant, but we need to walk the fine line of helping the student understand that we're not the police. We're here to do our roles, but we're here to do them within certain boundaries to ensure that not just the student, but the institution is complying with laws and that we keep our people safe too. So some days it's difficult, but the accomplishment, the achievement comes when you see successful students, when they achieve their goals, when a student comes back and says, you're the reason I'm in grad school, you're the reason I'm getting a doctorate, you're the reason I have this achievement behind me. As educators, that's our greatest achievement, to
Yes.
create good human beings and productive members of society.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And ending on that note is so beautiful because, again, in this culture, sometimes teachers are not valued either monetarily or with respect. So you're speaking from your experience and your heart and your dedication, and it speaks very well for educators. Thank you so much, Dr. Rupa Raji.
Thank you.
And I'll close and say to our audience, in this world of technology that we can connect all around the world, still students and scholars are opting to go to foreign countries where they can make friends with people at various points in their lives, and they can observe new and different behaviors and cultures. I think I might call it educational value added. And by the way, educational value added, I kind of hope that is how you think of school talk.